Hello everyone, welcome to this series of top interview 150 question where we are doing the lead code interview questions, and the question which we are going to do today is majority element. So the question states that given an array nums of size n, return the majority element. The majority element is the element that appears more than n by 2 times. You may assume that the majority element exists in the array. So the question has given a integer array nums whose size is going to be n, and we have to find the majority element among these elements. And the majority element is going to be the element which has been occurred more than n by 2 times. That is half of the size of the nums array. So we can assume that the majority element always exists in the array. Now let's see this example 2 and understand what is going on. So in example 2, you can see that the size of the integer array nums is 7 and the elements present are 1 and 2. 1 appears 3 times and 2 appears 4 times. So the element 2 is greater than the half of the size of the nums, which is going to be 3. So our answer is going to be 2. So in this question, you can think of different approaches. First approach, which you can think of, is by using sort. And by sorting this nums integer array, you can use a for loop and find the number which has been occurred more than n by 2 times. And whenever you find that element, you can directly return it. But in here, the time complexity is going to be big O of n log n. Now let's discuss the second approach, and the second approach is going to be by using hash maps. We can use hash map to store the occurrence of each unique elements, and while storing them we can also check if any unique element's occurrence becomes greater than n by 2, then we can directly return that. Here you can also see that the we are using extra space, so space complexity is going to be big O of n and time complexity is going to be big O of n. Now let's discuss the most optimal approach, which is the Boer-More voting method. In this method, what we are going to do, let's understand with this example. We are you first set the first position element to be the majority element for the first time, and we take a count to be 1. Then when we move to our next position, we check if the number is equals to our taken majority element, then we increase our count to 1 more. So our count becomes 2. Now again, if it is not equals to our majority element, then our count decreases. So our count decreases and becomes 1. Here when comes that count becomes 0. So we have to also take a one more condition, which is whenever our counts become 0, we change our majority element. So in next loop, where the count is equals to 0, we change our majority elements from 2 to 1. Now again, when we move to next position, and also we have to consider that when we change our majority element, we also increase our count to be 1. So when we move to our next position, which is 2, again the majority elements counts becomes 0. Now finally, when we move to our last position, our majority elements becomes 2 and our count is going to be 1. So finally we return our majority elements. Now let's try to code this and understand it better. So what we have to do, we have to first take our majority element maj equals to num0 and a count which is going to be initially 1. Now we run a for loop which is starting from 1 and j equals to 1, j less than nums dot size j plus plus. Okay, now we have to check if our count is equals to 0. So what we have to do, we have to do two things. First, we will change our majority element to be to the current nums value, and we have to increase our count. Okay, now let's move to our next condition, which is going to be else if our nums j is equals to majority element. So if our next element is equals to our majority element, we have to increase the count. And if at last condition, if it is not equal to, we will just decrease it, count minus minus. Finally, we have to return it for majority element, which is maj. So this is the final code. Now let's try to run it. Okay, so we have just left. Now let's try to run again. Okay, so it is accepted. Now let's try to submit it to check all other conditions. Okay, so it is successfully submitted. So this is the question.